back to Book March Madness. My name is Lee and I will be your ref for this competition. I am really jazzed about today because it is our first four competition, the first round of voting. I have been waiting for this for so long. It's a great day. What is the first four competition, you ask? That's an excellent question. So in regular March Madness, they have what are called play-in teams, where teams who didn't initially make the original bracket and now are given a chance to prove whether they belong in the bracket. And I am the only person on this committee that has selected the titles. And while I did my best to be objective and rely on other people's statistics in order to pick which titles belonged in the bracket, sometimes my personal preference will obviously get in the way. I'm human, I can't be entirely objective, which is why at the end of the bracket introduction videos, you all were given a 48-hour window to suggest a title that wasn't included in the bracket but you think deserves to be there. And then the most popular choices were given the play-in spot, or I like to call it the wild card spot. I know that's a baseball term, but I'm not sports fluent anyway, so I picked the word I liked the best. And the results of those were Little Women by Louisa May Alcott for the classics bracket, Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow for the mystery thriller bracket, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy for the romance bracket, and The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson for the fantasy sci-fi bracket. And the purpose of that was, like I said, I can't be entirely objective, and so I wanted you all to have a say in some of the titles to be included in the competition. So how does this first four competition work? Those four titles will be going up against the lowest ranked titles in those particular genres. So Little Women will be going up against Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, Presumed Innocent against The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, Anna Karenina against The Princess Bride by William Goldman, and The Way of Kings going up against Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. Now the voting is the same for every round of Book March Madness, but since this is the first instance of it, I'll walk you through how it goes. Down in the description or on Leighellens Library on Instagram, you will find a link to a SurveyMonkey page, and you will be given 4 questions. Why 4? Well, it's because there are 4 pairings in this first competition. In the first round of voting, not the first 4 competition, in the first round competition, which will happen on March 18th, it will be 32 questions in total for all of the titles in the actual competition. But for now, it's just the 4, so you get a little bit of a taste how it's going to work. So the questions will say something along the lines of, for example, for the classics bracket, which title do you think is best? And it will give you Little Women by Louisa May Alcott or Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it is up to you to pick which book you think is best. Now I can hear the questions now. What happens if I haven't read one or either of the books? And to that I say, welcome to my life. I've read generously maybe a quarter of the titles on this board. So while these questions are phrased usually based on content, out of the 2 contents of the 2 books, which do you think is best? You can really make up your own parameters for how you decide which to be best. It can be as complicated as taking into consideration the statistics in which all of these books were picked. You can make up your own analysis, or I know for some of my decisions will be based on whether I think the author is reputable. And so even though I know I haven't read that book, the reputation and the quality of that author speaks more to me than someone I haven't heard of before. That may influence my decision. Or, honestly, sometimes it may just come down to which book cover you think is better. So while the questions are phrased based on the content of the book, you can set your own precedent for what you think is better. So once you've answered or chosen a title for all 4 questions, you hit submit, and your voting process is done. But it doesn't stop there, because on March 18th at 10 a.m., the next video, or the first round competition, will go live, as well as the results of our first 4 competitions, so where you will find out which title had the most amount of votes and will be included in the competition. So we could see the first round of cuts being made. So if Presumed Innocent does better than The Moonstone, The Moonstone's taken off the board and removed from the competition, and Presumed Innocent will take its place. Pretty standard stuff, just like regular March Madness works, except without all the confusing statistics. Now, if I could be so bold as to make some predictions, because I think that's half the fun. Since I'm not actually voting in this competition, it's all up to you guys. I want to make some of my own predictions. I think, because of the rise in popularity Little Women has had since the Saoirse Ronan Timothée Chalamet movie came out, it was so good, I think it's going to displace Treasure Island, because it is such an iconic story. I love Treasure Island, I love Robert Louis Stevenson, but I think This one has a wider fan base. That's going to bump it up in the competition. That's my prediction. This one, I'm not really sure. I've read neither of the two titles. This is a more recent release. This one was a pretty obscure one. I don't think it has as wide a fan base, but it, in all of the lists where I found it, heralded it to be some of the cream of the crop in the mystery thriller bracket. So that one's kind of a toss-up. I don't know exactly which direction that one's going to go. If I were voting in the competition for the romance bracket, Princess Bride would get my vote hands down, because it's one of my all-time favorite love stories. It's so good, but I also really love Anna Karenina, and we don't really have a tragedy title in the romance bracket, and it was definitely a spot that needed to be filled by something. Like I said, we don't have a tragedy, so maybe the representation of a tragic romance needs to be in the competition and people will vote that way. This one would be my own personal taste. My vote for this particular round would have been influenced by my own personal taste, and I would have probably picked The Princess Bride. The fantasy sci-fi. This one I think is going to be interesting, whether the juggernaut that is Brandon Sanderson will overtake the loyalist C.S. Lewis fans. I love C.S. Lewis with my whole heart, but I have not read Out of the Silent Planet, nor have I even begun to approach The Way of Kings, despite the countless amount of people who tell me to do so, since I am an avid fantasy reader. I don't know where my vote would go. I know Rhythm of War came out recently, so I'm assuming, if I could make a prediction, which is why I'm doing this whole thing, I think Brandon Sanderson is probably going to overtake C.S. Lewis. Unfortunately. Not that either are bad, but I just kind of think that's the way the winds are blowing in this particular day and age. So that's the first four competition. As soon as this video is done, you can go click on the SurveyMonkey link and submit which titles you think deserve to be in this competition. Like I said before, tune in on March 18th at 10 a.m. to see the results of the first four competition and to be introduced to the first round of voting, which will include all titles in the competition. That one's going to be a busy day. I'm going to be glued to my phone all day seeing what's going to happen. So come back on March 18th at 10 a.m. to see the results. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to this channel. It really does help me out. Let me know what you guys want to see. As always, a huge thank you to the friends and family who have readily supported me on this journey. It truly means the world to me, and I can't wait to see what's on the next page. So until March 18th, when we see the results of this competition, cheers.